Alright, so this is the final chapter as far as building shaders is concerned. In the chapter after this, we'll just take a look at some final settings for rendering. So that's going to be a fairly minor lesson, but technically this is the final lesson as far as shader building is concerned. Okay, so the only shader left is one for the plate. Okay, now I'm not doing anything for the floor. I'm leaving that up to you. Like if you can come up with something for the floor or the table, great. If you do come up with something nice, do send me a render. I'd like to see that. Okay, so the first thing I want to do with the plate is I would like to, let me just stop this. And let's give it some UV mapping because the plate doesn't have UV mapping. So we'll take a simple UV project. And I'm just going to give it some basic planar mapping. So let me press enter and I'll click initialize. Yeah, and that's basically it. Okay, and what I want to do is press E and just sort of scale it slightly bigger. Okay, and then let's take a material and we'll assign a material. So let me come here and let me take, let me come to ShopNet and we'll take redshift network. We'll apply a redshift material. Let's call it plate. And we come back to the plate and we'll assign plate. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's come back to camera 1 and we'll hit IPR again. Alright, so textures wise, what I have essentially is this one sort of like a white plastic dirt texture that I had. The actual texture is this. It's like a fairly bigger texture. So I sort of cut out a small part of it and I desaturated it and made it sort of less dirty because we don't want the plate to be that dirty. We are serving cake on it. But if you use it at a subtle enough level, it looks nice. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to use. So there you go. This is the plate. Let's also do one thing for now. I'll come to the camera and we'll turn off depth of field. Yeah, so we just see the whole thing. Another thing is I think the displacement of the spoon is a bit too much. So let's do one thing. Let's just come into the spoon and to the displacement and we are at 0.1. Let's make it 0.05. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Okay, 0.1 was looking a little too extreme. Okay, so let's come in here and what I want to do is a couple of things. Like firstly, I want the reflections to get a little wavy. Okay, like if you look at a plate, it's never like clean reflections. So one of the things we want to do to begin with is let's get the color a little up, like not that dark. And the roughness we'll control later. First, I'm just going to take a simple noise map and give it bump. So let's take a simple noise map. We'll change this to fractal and let me just see how this is. So let me connect it to diffuse color. So I think we need it slightly bigger. Okay, so we'll lower the overall scale of this. So it's fairly big. And we'll also give it a slight bit of distortion. A little bit of frequency scale should be okay. Okay, because the point is I just want this reflection to get a little wavy. Okay, so we'll take a bump map now. So we'll take an RS bump map. I'll plug it into input and let this come out bump. And yeah, you'll end up getting that. Okay, which is way too extreme. So get this to 0.005 and see, there you go. What should happen is like the reflection should get slightly wavy. Like if you're seeing it over there. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's get the frequency scale lower. Yeah, because we just want like a slight bit. Like it shouldn't look like water. Like that's the whole thing. And get the amplitude scale up as well. So it's very soft. Yeah, there you go. So you just get like the slight bit of a wave on the whole thing, which is better. Alright, so that's step 1. Now it's a subtle enough thing, but it does help, give an overall better result. Alright, so this is step 1. Now the next thing is I want to take, that dirt map that we had. So let's take an RS texture and we will pick up the texture. So where is it? Yeah, it should be this one, dirt white plastic. And let's plug this through a ramp. Always take everything through a ramp, like it just makes things easier. So out color goes to input, set this to alt and plug it into the diffuse color. Okay, let's just see what we have first of all. Okay, let's just hit a render again. Let's stop that and hit a render. Yeah, there you go. So there's my dirt map. So this is way too much. Okay, first of all, so let's take this and make it like a medium gray. Yeah, so you get like a little bit, but not too much. Technically, you probably don't even want to put this into a diffuse, but it's nice. See, you're getting like a little bit of texture over there. Let's do one thing. Let's not put it into diffuse. Let's start directly with specular. I think specular would be better. Okay, so disconnect this, and we'll just open it up temporarily, and we'll go to reflection color. Yeah, and let's just make this slightly darker. So the basic diffuse color remains white. And we just end up working with so let's just see what we get. Like, let me just draw a region here and see what we end up with. Yeah, there you go. See, so now you're getting like a little bit, but like the diffuse color remains plain, so it doesn't really affect that, which is a good thing. Like, you don't want, because if you put it in diffuse, it's going to start looking like it's dirty. And you don't want that. This just makes it look like it's been sort of washed too many times. So there are just scratches on it, something like that. If we want, we can also mix the scratch map with this. Okay, so what we can do is, let me just do Control-C, Control-V. And we can bring back the scratch map that we had. So we'll bring back scratches, or hold on, let's take show images. I want to take the one that is less contrast. Yeah, that one. So let's pick up that one, and again I'll just do Control-C, Control-V. We will plug in the color, and let's plug this into, yeah, there you go. You have scratches. I think far too many of them. So let's do one thing. Let's try to invert this. Yeah, so the scratches are sort of darker, and let's see if we can sort of, let me just sort of lessen that a little. Let's also try to increase the tiling of this. So we'll make it about 2 by 2. So we have like a few more scratches. Yeah, I think that's good. Let me turn off, let me just render the whole thing and see what we get. Yeah, so you have some nice little scratches here. They're not too visible, but that's okay. It's enough of a detail to sort of just show up. Like, you can always push this in a little and make this slightly darker, just so that we can see what we have. Like, if you want them to be a little more extreme. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so then we can try to multiply these two together. So let's keep this here, because once we multiply them, it might get a little darker than what we want. So just, plug this in and let this go out. Yeah, so this should give us both, so the dirt texture that we had and the scratches. Yeah, so there you go. Like, you can make it out. You can make out the stuff here, As I said, the idea is to keep it subtle. Like, I know it's a little difficult to see, but it's there. Okay. Like, if we get these darker still, I'm very sure we'll be able to see it then. Like, if we get the scratches to be darker. Like, the point is, you want the specular to remain. You don't want it to disappear completely. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, so now you have your scratches and everything. Let's also try to make this a little darker, just to see what we get. Yeah, there you go. See, if you want a little extreme, you can just sort of adjust the gradient and it comes out a little more extreme. So this is step one. The second thing we also want is a little bit of roughness, or this texture to affect the roughness a little bit. So again, just duplicate. Let's do one thing. Let's just work with the first one. Okay, so let's take another RS ramp and I'll just plug this in here. And again, set this to alt. Okay, and this goes out to the roughness. So more and base properties, and we have reflection roughness. Yeah, so that's way too much. Okay, we can check it out over there. Okay, so the first thing is we need to reverse it. So let's just take this and that. Okay, so black is a bad idea anyways. Okay, hold on, let's do one thing. Let's just stop this. And we don't want anything near white anyways. So let's just, lower that a fair bit just to see what we get. Yeah, and let's do a region render here. Okay, let's also do one thing. I want the reflection to be slightly higher. So let's get this to about 1.8 just so that we can see what's happening with the reflection. Okay, and let's try to reverse this. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to remove the, remove the specular map and just work with the roughness and see what we get. Yeah, there you go. Like if you increase the value, then you can sort of adjust, then you start seeing it. So I think if we do a bigger render now, we should be able to see it. This doesn't look very nice, but it's just a good enough idea for you to understand, like, how to build a slightly more detailed shader. See, that looks nice now. Like the reflection that you're getting of the strawberries down here, see, that looks pretty nice. Like it's sort of broken up a little, it's spreading out. So the plate looks a little more used than it should be. But you can then adjust it. Like if you don't want it that rough, then we can sort of just lower it a little. So it won't be that rough then. See, so you're getting like a little bit, not too much. Like this specular, the reflection sort of starts to stretch out wherever the map is blurring. Okay, let's bring back, this guy. Let's put it into reflection weight. It's the same thing. Yeah, and we can try to adjust it again. Yeah, so there you go. That's a that's a relatively old plate now. Okay, but you're getting like a little bit of like the berries reflection. If I come to camera 2, I think we might be able to see it a little better. So let me just adjust this so we can angle it over here. Yeah. And I'll stop this and we'll switch to camera 2 and do another render. Yeah, see, so now you can make out, the whole texture in much more detail. Yeah, so that's basically like, I don't want to give a bump map to this, except beyond what we have, like that very slight bump map. I think that's good enough. I don't want to go beyond that because I don't want the plate to look like really old or anything. Okay, like this is good. This is where we are. Okay, so let's do a proper render of this. Yeah, let's also do one thing. Let's bring back the cake as well. So we'll do a proper render with the cake from this angle, like not the final angle, but let me just bring back the cake and everything. So the cake and the crumbs and the sprinkles. Yeah, let's do a proper render of this and then we'll come back. Okay, so I'm going to set this to like turn that off. So we'll get full resolution and turn off IPR and everything else is the way it should be. Yeah, okay, so let's do a render and then we'll come back. Alright, so here we are. So this is the final render. I think this is looking pretty nice. It looks like chocolate. Okay, I think the bump here is a little too much, so we could probably adjust that. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's go back to IPR and we'll just adjust it. So I'm going to like draw a small region there just so I can adjust the bump map for that. Okay, so yeah, just like a few minor adjustments. So let's come to ShopNet and chocolate sauce. Yeah, that's the bump map. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's take the bias a little higher. Yeah, and let's just play around with this a little bit. Yeah, no, not that. Let's lower this. We want a little bit. And we'll also lower the bump map a little. So let's take the maximum range down to 0.5. And let's try to do a render here so we can see it overall. Okay, also I think I would like to lower the, no, I think that's okay. Let's switch to normal rendering. Okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe lower the reflectivity a little bit. So let's come to the material. We'll make it 1.2. I think 1.2 should be okay. And another thing I want to check is I also want to lower the specularity of the raspberries, because I think that's a little too high as well. Let's go back to IPR. So and I'll draw a box there. So ShopNet and berries. Yeah, let's minimize this. So we'll press on the 2 lines, so it shows you just the inputs. Okay, and let's take this one. Yeah, I think 1.25 should be good enough, and maybe give it slight bit more roughness. Yeah, so just like a few final touches to the whole thing. Let's just zoom out a bit, so I can just get a little bit of the ice cream in there as well. Yeah, I think that's okay. Anyway, so this is basically it. Okay, so this is almost the final look that we want. So in the next lesson, we'll just take a look at some final render settings, and that's basically it. So that will be the end of the entire training series.